Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Motorcycle Rewind. Today we're going to talk about the 5 things you should consider before you buy your first vintage motorcycle. Because there's a lot of people that want them. And I know I buy a lot of motorcycles from people that have them. They get them, they take them apart, they get in over their head, and then they don't know what to do with it. So we're going to talk about all that today on Motorcycle Rewind. Okay guys, often I get people asking me, I want to get my first motorcycle, so what should I do? What should I look for? The first thing I tell them is you should look in your toolbox. If you don't have any tools, it's not your first, probably shouldn't go into a motorcycle that's 40 to 50, 60 plus years old. Probably shouldn't do it, right? So the first thing that you should consider when buying your first vintage motorcycle is, do I have the tools and the willingness to use them? Because if you don't, it's going to be hard work. It's going to be hard, and then trying to find the person to help you get it working, to get it running, your costs are going to go through the roof, and it's just not going to be fun, right? So the first one is understanding that maybe I'm going to need some tools and a willingness to use them. And those tools, you don't need a whole bunch of these tools, but what you will need are just a basic set of tools so you can get the job done, basically get it running. Right? And some of those tools are going to be an owner's manual, a service manual, and you're going to have to be curious on how does this thing work and how do I get it running. Now you got a set of tools, you passed the first test and now you're on to it. What do I need next? You need to figure out what your budget is. What is your budget for the motorcycle you want? Be realistic about what you're looking for and what you're going to want to do, right? If you want a $500 motorcycle, just know you're probably going to need about $750 worth of parts. Right? And maybe another couple $100 worth of tools. Just know that that's going to happen, and know it's going to have to, and that's if you're doing all the work. So your budget. So what is your budget both financially, and how much time are you willing to invest in building this motorcycle, even just getting it running? That's why I'm a huge proponent of spend as least as you can to get it going and then build it over time. Because the moment we take it all apart and it stops being able to roll around the garage, we start kicking the boxes, we start losing pieces and parts, and then we lose interest. So be honest with your budget, right? Not with just the purchase price of the motorcycle, but what do you plan? What do you feel like you're going to need to spend to get it going? And do some research. You're going to spend a couple $100 on tires. You may need to buy a carb kit. You may need to buy a couple of different things. So a battery. So already just in those things, we're up to, depends on the motorcycle, we're up to $300 to $400, depends on what you're looking at, right? So understand that was just tires, a carb kit, and a battery. So just keep that in mind when you're buying a $1,000 motorcycle, because already it's $1,300, $1,400 and we hadn't even gotten it running yet. And the other thing to consider when you're thinking about this is with budgeting your time, right? The moment you get an old motorcycle, you're going to fix the first thing that's going to highlight the next thing that needs to be repaired, right? You're not going to repair them all at once. So it's going to be this cascading effect, and just understand, what am I willing to put into this thing and how can I get it going, right? So your budget, got to have one, and you got to stick to it. Okay, so you got tools, you figured out how much money you want to spend, and now we're on to number 3, right? What motorcycle to look for? Or which one do I look for, right? Understanding, do I want a cafe bike? Do I want to build a cafe bike? Or do I just want to build a stock motorcycle, or somewhere in between? And you're going to have to start to identify the make and model, your make and models of the motorcycles that you're interested in. And when you're looking for your first one, it's kind of be open. I like to look for first ones, look to motorcycles that had lots of production. Right? Meaning that they were super popular. That means there's going to be more of them out there, and you'll be able to buy them at a better price. You'll be able to buy them at a more reasonable price. Again, your first motorcycle is not going to be a Kawasaki H1, right? You're not going to be looking to something that's going to cost you, even a parts bike is going to cost you $5,000. That's not what you want to look for. And then when you're identifying the motorcycle that you're looking at, let's say you want to build a cafe racer. Again, build a cafe racer. You don't want to buy just the cheap motors. So you get cheap, you buy it at a good price. Make sure before you cut that motorcycle up that it's not better saved as more original, so you have more money in it. Understanding that. That's where it's going to take doing some research. Doing some research so you can see what's going on, right? Look into what's there, right? So look around, not just on styling, but what bike is going to, and search parts. right? Search parts, do some research on the front end. Do yourself a favor and don't just cruise marketplace and buy the first cheap motorcycle you see, because that's not going to be the best thing for you. Not all the time, right? Understand what you're looking for, narrow down your focus, and then widen your net. Don't just look in your neighborhood, look further. Be willing to go a little bit further. Be willing to go outside of your area to go pick it up, because oftentimes you'll find a better deal. You know, you'll find a better deal being able to do that. This CB 350 KO 1968, I paid $200 for it. I did drive 5 hours to go get it, but it's worth it. I'm not going to find one around where I live, right? So you're going to have to kind of cast your net a little wider when you're looking for those things. But the first thing you have to do is identify the 1, 2, or 3 motorcycles that you're into, that you want, and then what do you want to do with it, right? What do you want to do with it, and then build it to that, right? So that's number 3. Okay guys, so now you have tools, you have a budget, you figured out what motorcycle you're looking for. Now you got to figure out what parts on this motorcycle are going to be unobtainium, right? Because again, these motorcycles 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, right? They're not always making all these parts. And if you fall in love with a 1-year only motorcycle, just know that you're going to come into you may run into some challenges, right? Understanding what's there. Right? Understanding what's there. And I'll post the card right up ahead of how to look for parts for your vintage motorcycle. So if you're looking, just go on, look for parts, and then you got to do some research. You're going to have to look around, not just on Google Images, but you're going to have to dig a little deeper into, okay, what parts are unavailable, right? Do that so you can find it, because every one of these motorcycles has an unobtainium part. I'll give you, for instance, right now, our 1979 CB750, Honda CB750K, it's an unobtainium part. It was a 1-year only motorcycle. The rear grab rail that goes between the seat and the seat cowl in the back, can't find, right? You can't find. Or if you find them, they're ridiculously expensive. No different than the 1968 Honda CB450K1 that we have. The exhaust and handlebars, to get them OEM, to get them stock. They don't even have to be new old stock, but just the right part. The exhausts are going to be $1,200, $1,400 if you can find them, and the handlebars you can't find, right? So it's understanding that. You're going to have to do some research to figure out, because you may fall in love with a bike, but you can't get the parts that you want. And then some of them may be internal to the engine. So understand that and know what's out there, so that you're just better served. So you're making better decisions in the front side. Okay guys, so just to recap, you have the tools, you figured out what your budget is, and you're going to stick to it. You have figured out what bike or bikes you're willing to kind of settle on. You figured out what parts in those bikes are unobtainium. And then the last thing is, you have to realize, number 5 is that there is no warranty. They don't come with a warranty, guys, right? They don't come with a warranty. You are the warranty. That's why number 1 is the tools. If you don't have the tools and the willingness to use it, just make sure you have enough cash so that you can pay somebody else to do it, right? Because you're always going to have to tinker with these things. You're always going to have to tinker with them. It's going to be something. It's the old joke is, it ran when parked, right? They all ran when they parked, right? But then something happened, right? Something's going to happen. Yeah, it ran great yesterday, but it doesn't mean it's going to start tomorrow, right? Again, these are 30, 40, 50 years old, right? Just know that it's going to happen. You're going to have to figure out how to work on it, because there may not be a time that you're going to be on the side of the road tinkering with it. It's going to happen. I always get a little nervous every time somebody follows me out. If I'm somewhere and they go, hey, I want to hear it run. For that second, I'm like, praying to make sure it starts. Because who knows? You never know, right? So you have to have the willingness to do it, but it goes back to those tools. You got to have the tools. You got to have a service manual. You got to have an owner's manual. So you have to understand it and understand how it works, because there may or may not be a time that you're going to be on the side of the road, and you're going to have to be the person to fix it, or be willing to dig in your pocket to pay somebody else to do it. So understand that, regardless of if you just had your bike built, it's going to need tinkering. They're all going to need tinkering, and you are the warranty program. Right? So keep that in mind. So guys, there you have it, our 5 things to consider before you buy your first vintage motorcycle. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and give us a like down below. And as always, like, tag, share, and follow us on Instagram at Motorcycle Rewind, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day.